Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna. Everyone chant. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astotara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astotara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shamakund Radhakund, Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So, today we'll be discussing the Nectar of Devotion. And Prabhupada subtitles The Complete Science of Bhakti Yoga. So this book is a very important book for us. It's a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So I'm going to attempt to explain. It's very deep, this book. So, yeah. I'll just invoke some auspiciousness. If you know this, then you can repeat with me. Otherwise, I'll just read it out because it's difficult. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunao Sadharma Samstapakao Lokanam Hitakarina Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajanan Anandena Matalikao Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Sri Sad Goswami ki jai. So we're reading from the introduction of the Nectar of Devotion. So the introduction of the Nectar of Devotion is actually the Mangala Charan in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, right? And the Mangala Charan, or rather the introduction and the Mangala Charan in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu includes three topics, and that is the Mangala Charan, and then a brief description of the book's contents, and thirdly, an authoritative definition of pure devotional service. So basically, this Nectar of Devotion is teaching us what pure devotional service is, and we're obviously aspiring to come to that level, right? So the Mangala Charan is an auspicious invocation, and therefore we'll find that Srila Prabhupada's first words in the introduction is invoking auspiciousness, right? So let's read. And then I'll comment as we read chapter by paragraph by paragraph. So, invoking auspiciousness. Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the reservoir of all rasas or relationships, which are called neutrality or passive adoration, servitorship, friendship, parenthood, conjugal love, comedy, compassion, fear, chivalry, ghastliness, wonder, and devastation. He is the supreme attractive form, and by his universal and transcendental attractive features, he has captivated all the gopis, headed by Taraka, Palika, Shama, Lalita, and ultimately Srimati Radharani. Let his Lordship's grace be on us so that there may not be any hindrance in the execution of this duty of writing the Nectar of Devotion, impelled by His Divine Grace, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. So we find that in the first verse or the first paragraph of the Nectar of Devotion, the objective of the book is defined, right? And the same as in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The objective of the book is defined. And the objective of this book is Lord Sri Krishna. Right? He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu itself, the verse is actually it's stated in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 8, text 142. So, so many of the verses in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita because Lord Chaitanya instructed Rupa Goswami on on Bhakti Yoga, pure devotional services, and he instructed them, Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, to write about this. So the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is culminating from that. So many of the verses Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami quotes in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the first verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is Akila Rasamrita Murti Prashramara Ruchi Ruda Taraka Pali Kalita Shama Lalito Radha Prayan Vidur Jayati. So that means, let Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, be glorified by virtue of his expanding attractive features. He subjugated the gopis named Taraka and Pali and absorbed the minds of Shama and Lalita. He is the most attractive lover of Srimati Radharani and is the reservoir of pleasure for devotees in all transcendental mellows. So he's Akila Rasamrita Murti, right? That he is the attractor of the gopi. He's the reservoir of all pleasures, right? That's what Akila Rasamrita Murti means. And so this means that he's the complete personal manifestation of all transcendental mellows. So all mellows are within him, and all mellows emanate from him. So, right? So, two things in this verse. That one, Krishna is the reservoir of all rasas, and so Krishna is the supreme feature. Krishna's supreme feature is his all-lovable personality, and not his position of powerfulness or majesty, right? So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada explains this by comparing Lord Narayan to a high court judge. So, the judge, when he's at work in the courtroom, he displays his majesty and his power. He's very respected, right? So that's the mood of like awe and reverence. So that's Lord Narayan. We worship Lord Narayan, awe and reverence, right? Because, but then at home, the judge is a different personality, right? There, his very sweet and intimate nature is manifested. Like he's very respectful and faithful to his parents. He is jovial and confidential with his friends. And with his spouse, he's a lover. Right? He's very intimate. So, just like that, Lord Narayan in Vrindavan displays his sweetness, his loving nature. So this is Krishna in Vrindavan. And then therefore Rupa Goswami addresses Vrindavan Krishna as Akila Rasamrita Murti. And singles Lord Krishna out as the objective of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And then Krishna is the attractor of the gopis. So it's stated in the first paragraph that by his universal and transcendental attractive features, he has captivated all the gopis, headed by Taraka, Palika, Shama, Lalita, and ultimately Srimati Radharani. So Srila Rupa Goswami groups these 5 different gopis according to their intensity of affection towards Lord Krishna. So Taraka, Palika, Shama, Lalita, and Srimati Radharani. And Srimati Radharani. So by his attractive features, Krishna, he subjugates Taraka and Palika, right? Subjugate means to bring under control. So, just like that, Krishna, with his attractiveness, he subjugates us, he brings us under control. Because we become attracted to Krishna. And then we start practicing what Krishna is teaching us, right? And when we want to practice what someone is teaching us, basically we come under their control of their teachings, right? And then he absorbs Shama and Lalita by taking them into his intimate circle. And Srimati Radharani is obviously the dearest to Lord Krishna. He becomes her submissive lover. So that's why there's the term Radha Prayan means he becomes a submissive lover. So this is the power of Srimati Radharani's devotion. So Krishna, the lover of Srimati Radharani and reservoir of all rasas, is the object and goal of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So that's what the first paragraph is. The objective of the first paragraph, it is defining that Sri Krishna is the ultimate goal of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So we'll read the second paragraph. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada and of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, by whose inspiration I have been engaged in the matter of compiling this summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is the sublime science of devotional service as propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago in West Bengal, India, to propagate the movement of Krishna consciousness. So, second. So in the Madhya Leela, chapter 19, text 134. Sorry. Madhya Leela, chapter 19, text 134. It stated, Hridiyasya preranaya pravartitoham varaka rupopi tasya hare pada kamalam vande chaitanya devasya. And the translation is, although I am the lowest of men, I have no knowledge. Although I am the lowest of men and have no knowledge, the inspiration to write transcendental literatures about devotional service has been mercifully bestowed upon me. Therefore, I am offering my obeisances at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has given me the chance to write these books. So we see that here in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, obeisances are offered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who personally taught the science of Bhakti Rasa and inspired Rupa Goswami to write the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Srila Prabhupada was instructed in Krishna consciousness by his own spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So thus the nectar of devotion was more directly inspired by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Rupa Goswami, the original author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So therefore Prabhupada sort of adjusts the summary so that this verse offers obeisances to them, right? We can go on. Srila Rupa Goswami begins his great book by offering his respectful obeisances unto Sri Sanatan Goswami, who is his elder brother and spiritual master. And he prays that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu may be very pleasing to him. He further prays that by residing in that ocean of nectar, Sri Sanatan Goswami may always feel transcendental pleasure in the service of Radha and Krishna. So Rupa Goswami offers his obeisances to his spiritual master. We'll read on fourth paragraph. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the great devotees and acharyas who are compared to sharks in the great ocean of nectar and who do not care for the various rivers of liberation. Impersonalists are very fond of merging into the Supreme like rivers, like rivers that come down and merge into the ocean. The ocean can be compared to liberation, and the rivers to all the different paths of liberation. The impersonalists are dwelling in the water, which eventually comes to mix with the ocean. They have no information, however, that within the ocean, as within the river, there are innumerable aquatic living entities. The sharks who dwell in the ocean do not care for the rivers which are gliding down into it. The devotees eternally live in the ocean of devotional service, and they do not care for the rivers. In other words, those who are pure devotees always remain in the ocean of transcendental loving service to the Lord and have no business with other processes which are compared to the rivers that only gradually come to the ocean. So this is a very nice verse, a very nice paragraph. So here Srila Rupa Goswami, he compares the devotees to sharks in the ocean, right? So why does he compare them to sharks in the ocean? So it's described that the ocean is the nectar, ocean of the nectar of devotion, and the rivers are different paths leading to this ocean of devotion, right? So, number one, a shark lives only in the ocean, right? And it refuses to live in any lesser bodies of water. And so like that, devotees, they always relish the nectarian ocean of devotion, and they're not attracted to lesser paths. So that means if we're taking this path of Krishna consciousness seriously, this path, this Krishna consciousness is like the ocean. It's we are studying. It culminates in pure devotional service, prema bhakti, right? And it's this ocean of devotion. So once we're practicing properly and we're relishing this Krishna consciousness, why will we want to take any other path? So therefore, the devotees are compared to sharks in the ocean, right? And sharks, they reject the rivers, right? So the rivers are referring to the impersonalists, or the impersonalist path, which ultimately they merge, they end up in the ocean. Yeah, the sharks are the king of the oceans. So the rivers, they ultimately end up merge with the ocean. So this is what impersonalists want. They want to merge with the Supreme Lord. So that is their argument, that they want to merge with the Supreme Lord. But what they fail to distinguish, their fault is that they fail to distinguish that in the rivers there are living entities. There are fish in the rivers and many other living entities, as well in the ocean. So the river may merge. The river may merge and mix up with the ocean, but the living entities, they do not become part of the ocean. Understand what I'm saying? Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Giri Govardhan ki jai. Sorry. So the rivers, they flow and they merge into the ocean. So that means the waters become one. But the living entities are still individual living entities, whether they live in the ocean or whether they live in the rivers, right? So that's their fault, that they don't realize that even though their path may lead to the Supreme Lord, but they won't merge into the body of the Supreme Lord. So this is they think that they're going to merge into the body of the Supreme Lord, but actually they don't. What they do is they reside in the effulgence of the Lord, in the Brahmajyoti of the Lord. So just like living entities that flow from the river, swim from the river into the ocean, they don't become part of the ocean. They're still individual living entities that are living within the ocean, right? So our goal is to live in the ocean of devotion and reside and serve with the other living entities or the other devotees of the Lord, right? So that is the goal, not to merge with the Supreme Lord. So devotees never take to any other path of self-realization other than bhakti. And then another interesting point in the paragraph is that sharks are never caught by the fisherman's net. Okay? So the devotees, they're like sharks and they swim deep in the ocean, right? The real liberation of bhakti rasa. And therefore they are never caught in the fisherman's net. So the fisherman's net is actually referring to time or the snares of birth and death. So devotees are not caught up in time or by time. And they're not affected by birth or death because they understand that we are eternal living beings. We are spiritual beings, eternal. So we are eternally going to be serving the Supreme Lord Krishna, right? So therefore, when we take seriously to the process of Krishna consciousness, we dive deep into this process, then the fear of death is not there anymore. It slowly diminishes, right? We're all afraid of death. The main fear is death, the biggest fear for everyone. But when we dive deep into Krishna consciousness, into the ocean of devotion, then this fear dissipates because we understand that we are deathless. So the fifth verse or paragraph, Rupa Goswami, he invokes benediction for the protection of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So we read that. Srila Rupa Goswami prays to his spiritual master, Srila Sanatana Goswami, for the protection of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of the pure nectar of devotional service, from the argumentative logicians who unnecessarily meddle in the science of service to the Lord. He compares their arguments and logic to volcanic eruptions in the midst of the ocean. In the midst of the ocean, volcanic eruptions can do very little harm, and similarly, those who are against devotional service to the Lord and who put forward many philosophical theses about the ultimate transcendental realization cannot disturb this great ocean of devotional service. So I just want to read something from here. So Srila Rupa Goswami invokes a benediction for the protection of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu from the argumentative logicians. So he, and then Srila Prabhupada, he writes that he compares their arguments and logics to volcanic eruptions in the ocean. So when a volcanic eruption takes place in the ocean, it is not as effective as when it takes place in land, right? It doesn't cause as much damage as when it takes place in land, right? So Rupa Goswami, he gives his blessings by indicating that those who study this book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, they will become freed from the misconception of these impersonalists. The author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, very humbly submits that he is just trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, although he humbly thinks himself unfit for this work. That should be the attitude of all preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. We should never think of ourselves as great preachers, but should always consider that we are simply instrumental to the previous acharyas, And simply by following in their footsteps, we may be able to do something for the benefit of suffering humanity. So this is the attitude of a preacher. Here in this paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is summing up Rupa Goswami's humility. Right? Rupa Goswami describes himself as incompetent. Right? But actually, he was a pure devotee of the Lord. So this is the mood of that we should imbibe as preachers. That we shouldn't think that we know everything and go out there and try to argue with people. Why do we practice Krishna consciousness? The first and foremost, whatever activities we do in Krishna consciousness is to please Krishna. So when we become puffed up, this does not please Krishna. When we become, when we become puffed up, proud of our knowledge, what little we know, we start committing offenses. And when we offend devotees, Krishna is not happy. And I've seen, over the years, we've seen many devotees who have offended other devotees. Krishna has slowly kicked them out, right? We've seen this. So, yeah, we should remain humble and preach with the mood that Krishna, I'm doing this to please you, and please allow the soul to take shelter at your lotus feet, like that. We don't preach to gain a following. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is divided into four parts, just as the ocean is sometimes divided into four parts. And there are different sections within each of these four divisions. Originally in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean is divided like the watery ocean into east, south, west and north, while the subsections within the different divisions are called waves. As in the ocean, there are always different waves, either in the eastern side, the southern side, the western side, or the northern side. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu similarly has different waves. In this paragraph, there are four waves. In the first part, there are four waves. The first being a general description of devotional service. The second concerns the regulative principles for executing devotional service. The third wave, devotional service in ecstasy. In the fourth is the ultimate goal, love of God. So these will be explicitly described along with their different symptoms. So now, the rest of the introduction is giving the definition of pure devotional service. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is described like this. Anyabilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. One second. I want to read the translation from the Sri Chaitanya Charita Amrita. So Prabhupada translate this as follows. When first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy, and fruit of action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. So, anukulyena shilanam. Anya bilashita shunyam, right? This means without desire other than those for the service of Lord Krishna or without material desires. And Srila Prabhupada, in brackets, he writes, such are as those for meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, and addiction to intoxicants. So when we take our vows of initiation, this is what we vow to abstain from. Because this is not, Krishna does not want these things. So if we perform these things, then it goes against the desires of Krishna. Right? We'll discuss more on this verse. So jnana means by the knowledge of the philosophy of the monists or Mayavadis. So impersonal philosophies. This Gyan is talking about impersonal philosophy. Karma, by fruitive activities. Adi, by artificially practicing detachment, by the mechanical practice of yoga, by studying the Sankhya philosophy, and so on. So, artificial renunciation and things like that, And anavritam, not covered. Anukulyena means favorable. Krishna Anushilanam, cultivation of service in relationship to Krishna. And Bhakti Uttama, first-class devotional service. So in other words, pure devotional service is the activity intended to please Krishna without any ulterior motive. And is not covered by philosophical or fruitive pursuits, So, so in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada translates the primary characteristics of pure devotional service. He says, first-class devotional service is known by one's tendency to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, serving the Lord favorably. So there are three primary characteristics of pure devotional service. One is devotional service is for Krishna only. Devotional service is an active engagement. And 3, devotional service is executed with a favorable intent. Means to please Krishna. So devotional service is for Krishna. And not for anyone else. Okay? And of all the primary, it states in this book that of all the primary characteristics, this is the most essential. That we understand that devotional service is for Krishna only, not for anything else. Not for us. Yes, by practicing devotional service, we become better living entities. But ultimately, it's for pleasing Krishna. Srila Prabhupada explains that also Krishna has many expansions, right? He says that he is expanded by his plenary parts and parcels, his differentiated parts and parcels, and his different energies. Plenary parts and parcels refer to all the expansions and incarnations of Godhead, such as Baladev, Sankarshan, Vasudev, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Rama, Nrsimha, and Varaha, as well as many other incarnations and innumerable Vishnu expansions. Differentiated parts and parcels refer to the living entities. Different energies refers to the material and spiritual worlds. So these 3 categories include everything that exists. This material world, spiritual world is existing. Material world is existing temporarily or whatever. Krishna's expansions are existing and his parts and parcels are existing. So when we say devotional service is exclusively for Krishna, it's including everything else that exists. Right? So when we serve Krishna exclusively, we're serving everyone and everything else in existence. So sometimes we'll say that, devotional service is exclusively for Krishna, and people think it's fanatical or it's too strong. But no, when we understand that everything is included in Krishna, everything and anything and everything is emanating from Krishna. So when we serve Krishna, like Prabhupada gives the analogy of watering the tree, of pouring water in the root of the tree. When you pour water on the root of the tree, the entire tree is nourished. The trunk, the leaves, the branches, the fruits, flowers. Okay? So like that, when we serving Krishna exclusively, performing devotional service for Krishna's pleasure, everyone else is also served in that way. So we'll discuss that verse further. Anushilana. Okay, so the word Anushilanam sorry. So Prabhupada writes further. This devotional service is a sort of cultivation. It is not simply inaction for people who like to be inactive or devote their time to silent meditation. There are many different methods for people who want this, but cultivation of Krishna consciousness is different. The particular word used by Srila Rupa Goswami in this connection is Anushilana, right? Or cultivation by following the predecessor teachers, the acharyas. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Without activity, consciousness alone cannot help us. All activities may be divided into two classes. One class may be for achieving a certain goal, and the other may be for avoiding some unfavorable circumstance. So like we try to cultivate Krishna consciousness. So cultivation, Prabhupada explains, means some activity. Right? We're performing activities in Krishna consciousness. So we're not silently meditating. Right? We're becoming active. What do? We chant Krishna's names. We sing, we dance in kirtan, right? We go out in books. We cook for Krishna. These are all activities to please Krishna. This is how we cultivate our Krishna consciousness, right? In Sanskrit, these activities are called pravritti and nivritti, positive and negative action. So there are many examples of negative action. For instance, so we perform Krishna consciousness, and also we don't do certain things. We do certain things, we don't do certain things. Like I explained, we take a vow to not eat meat, don't drink alcohol, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, right? So these are things, the negative part of it, that we don't do, but it's favorable for Krishna consciousness when we don't do it. Yeah? So for instance, a diseased person has to be cautious and take medicine in order to avoid some unfavorable illness. Like that. So this means unfavorable or negative. Those who are cultivating spiritual life and executing devotional service are always engaged in activity. Such activity can be performed with the body or with the mind. Thinking, feeling, and willing are all activities of the mind. And when we will to do something, the activity comes to be manifest by the gross bodily senses. Thus, in our mental Thus, in our mental activities, we should try to think of Krishna and try to plan how to please Him. So we can use our body, mind and senses in Krishna consciousness. We use everything in Krishna service. So Prabhupada is explaining, we can think of how to please Krishna. Following in the footsteps of the great acharyas and the personal spiritual master. There are activities of the body, activities of the mind, and activities of speech. A Krishna conscious person engages his words in preaching the glories of the Lord. This is called kirtan. And by his mind, a Krishna conscious person always thinks of the activities of the Lord. For example, as he is speaking on the battlefield of Kurukshetra or engaging in his various pastimes in Vrindavan with the devotees. In this way, one can always think of the activities and pastimes of the Lord. This is the mental culture of Krishna consciousness. So basically, Krishna consciousness is making our conscious of Krishna. Right? So mind, body and soul, whatever we do, we engage in Krishna, we engage our mind, body and soul in Krishna service. We think of Krishna, of his pastimes, of his instructions, mind, body and speech. We talk about Krishna, discuss philosophy with the devotees. We do kirtan, and we use our bodies for serving the Lord, right? Cleaning the temple room, going out on Harinam, right? Cooking, etc. There's so many activities. So similarly, we can offer many services with our bodily activities, but all such activities must be in relationship with Krishna. This relationship is established by connecting oneself with the bona fide spiritual master, who is the direct representative of Krishna in disciplic succession. Therefore, the execution of Krishna conscious activities with the body should be directed by the spiritual master and then performed with faith. The connection with the spiritual master is called initiation. From the date of initiation by the spiritual master, the connection between Krishna and a person cultivating Krishna consciousness is established. Without initiation by a bona fide spiritual master, the actual connection with Krishna consciousness is never performed. So, interesting. So, we perform Krishna consciousness under the instruction of somebody who's a bona fide spiritual master. Prabhupada says that we take initiation from the spiritual master, and without initiation by a bona fide spiritual master, the actual connection with Krishna consciousness is never performed. Right? So there's so many souls out there, so many people out there that have bogus gurus. It's like we went and did a program the other day, and the gentleman was telling us that the priest comes and the priest is instructing them to do things, but the priest is not doing what he's instructing. You know? The priest is telling them to follow certain rules or principles and things, but he is not doing that. And then he says that the priest, in the middle of the performance of the prayer or whatever is going on, the yagya, he'll stop and he'll go for a smoke break and come back. Right? He told us this that day when we went for the program. So these are bogus gurus. And when we really think about it, how many of us were following bogus gurus previously? Until we came into contact with a devotee of Krishna or Srila Prabhupada's books. Right? So like that, we got Krishna by, or a devotee gave us Krishna. Right? So therefore we take initiation from a spiritual master, because the bona fide spiritual master can give us Krishna. He is the representative of Krishna. So just like the ambassador of the country, of any country, is representative of that country, so the spiritual master is the ambassador of the Supreme Lord Krishna. And we take shelter of a spiritual master, we take initiation from a bona fide spiritual master. So basically, bona fide means someone who is a devotee of Krishna. Yeah? Like Prabhupada, he is pure devotee of Krishna, and therefore he can give us Krishna. This cultivation of Krishna consciousness is not material. The Lord has three general energies, namely the external energy, the internal energy, and the marginal energy. What time do I have to stop? Sorry. I'll just do the last paragraph and then. This cultivation of Krishna consciousness is not material. The Lord has three general energies, namely the external energy, the internal energy, and the marginal energy. The living entities are called marginal energy, and the material cosmic manifestation is the action of the external or material energy. Then there is the spiritual world, which is a manifestation of the internal energy. The living entities who are called marginal energy perform material activities when acting under the inferior external energy. And when they engage in activities under the internal spiritual energy, their activities are called Krishna conscious. This means that those who are great souls or great devotees do not act under the spell of material energy, but act instead under the protection of the spiritual energy. Any activities done in devotional service or in Krishna consciousness are directly under the control of spiritual energy. In other words, energy is a sort of strength, and this strength can be spiritualized by the mercy of both the bona fide spiritual master and Krishna. Energy is a sort of strength, and this strength can be spiritualized in the mercy of both the bona fide spiritual master and Krishna. So we want to work under the direction of the internal energy, the spiritual energy. And Prabhupada says that this strength can be spiritualized by the mercy of both the bona fide spiritual master and Krishna. Therefore we seek blessings. Whatever, we need the mercy of the spiritual master, the mercy of the devotees, the mercy of Krishna. Because from their blessings, then we get spiritual strength. You know, we cannot perform devotional service on our own. I'm sure we all experienced that during COVID. Right? Personally, for me, during COVID, it was very tough because I didn't have the association of devotees. So yeah, we get spiritual strength from the spiritual master, from Krishna. We come to Krishna, we pray for spiritual strength. We pray that we don't fall back into the material energy and go back to our old habits, you know, because it's so easily to go back doing the wrong things that we used to do, because this movement or this process is simple, you know, but it's also very difficult. It's not an easy process. Oh, we could say, you know, just do devotional service, chant and be happy, right? But it's not that easy. We have to take shelter of the devotees, of the spiritual master. We have to take shelter of Krishna. And when we come into this movement, we become devotees, we practice devotional service, trying to become devotees. We can't go back. So we can't go back, so we can be either one of two things. We can be a happy devotee, or we can be a miserable devotee. Right? So, we'll be miserable devotees when we think we can do it on our own. But when we associate with other devotees and feed off their energies, and it's the same for them, they all have to feed off other devotees' energies, then we become happy devotees. In this movement, in Krishna consciousness, we need friends. Devotees need friends. We have to have friends in this movement. We can't do it on our own. So our friends will be our peers, and then we practice Krishna consciousness together. And then we have the senior devotees, the other devotees, who are giving us blessings, giving us guidance, and our spiritual masters, initiating spiritual masters or Shiksha Gurus, like that. So it's coming from Krishna, and then coming down in parampara, in disciplic succession. The mercy is coming. So if we think we can do it on our own, we're going to be miserable devotees. Okay? So I'll stop here. There's a lot more. Yeah. Okay, so I'll stop here. Any comments, questions, corrections? I was happy no one fell asleep. Okay. Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.